Hola, everybody.
Hello.
It's Friday, high noon, at the Spaghetti Western podcast, the Once Upon a Time in Spaghetti Westerns, to be exact. I am poster collector Jay Jennings, and to my right,
I'm Tom Betts.
the one and only Tom Betts, Spaghetti Westerns historian extraordinaire. And we're episode 37 here on this award-winning, Peabody-winning, Emmy-winning, I guess, podcast that everybody knows. And tell all your friends about it. Subscribe on YouTube. Also proud to announce that we're on Spotify and Apple's podcast as well, the Apple podcast, and on Anchor. So we've made it, Tom, top of the world.
I haven't checked them out yet, so I don't know.
You will, Tom. I know you will. But anyway, those three outlets are available, as well as Facebook and YouTube, where all our episodes are archived. So we have a special episode for you today. Tom, who's that next to you?
The Big E. This is Mr. Eastwood here.
And the only reason that is...
I couldn't be outdone by yours, so I had to get one.
No, you always outdo me, Tom. But yeah, so today's topic is, of course, we've waited all this time, Mr. Clint Eastwood, Blondie, The Man with No Name, Macho, Tom?
Yeah. The guy that started it all. Yep.
Right. So we've been waiting so long because we waited for all the other Clint tributes to settle down, right, Tom?
Yep.
So now it's our turn to basically pay homage to the three specific Leone trilogy. We're going to give a shout out to Rawhide, Tom, as you know.
Right.
We couldn't leave Rawhide out where it all began. Yep. We're going to even have a special mention for The Magnificent Stranger, Tom.
Yep.
And then also another TV show or proposed movie that was cut short when Clint said, "I don't think so." So we would have had something else, but it would have been a collage of earlier footage.
Issues, yep.
Right. So we know we have a lot of Clint Eastwood fans out there. Tom is going to go into lecture form today. I said, Tom, let it all hang out. So when we go by a film or discuss it and what it's meant to the genre, Tom will give a little history on it, some tidbits maybe that we didn't know already. And we're not talking about Eli Wallach almost drinking acid. That story is well known. These are tidbits that only Tom knows from his insiders. So, Tom, how was your week? You looking forward to the show?
Yeah, looking forward to it. Started to go through my files and pull out all the posters and stuff like that, which we'll show during the show, and some other surprises that you've got and I've got. So we'll show some of our collectibles.
Right. Tom, early in the I don't know if you have it handy. You still don't have your jail bars? Are they within reach, Tom?
I took them outside, put them back
Before
on the
grill.
Before
the show, Tom and I like to mess around, and he had these legitimate, look like jail bars in front of him. But he was wearing the poncho and the hat, and he had the cigar and the beard. So which film is he in jail, Tom, trying to get the guy out?
That's for a few dollars more.
Oh, okay.
He tries to get Pedro Sanchez? Yeah.
Right. I know where Pedro Sanchez is. Remember? And like, who's Pedro Sanchez?
Yep. He brings it back to Indio, yeah.
Right. Why would you break out a man and I've never heard of you before? You know? So there's this guy who does a thing. Have you seen What If or Problems or Mistakes in different movies, Tom?
Oh, yeah.
And he picks all his favorites, and some of them are like a spaghetti western, like, why did Clint shoot at the floor, yet he still killed the guy? Right. Anyway, I'm not going to give any more promo to that, but just find it. These are funny takeoffs. Anyway, Tom, who's Clint Eastwood? Well, Tom,
Well, Clint Eastwood was born in Clinton Eastwood Jr. on May 30th, 1930, in San Francisco, California. Uh, his father, during the Depression, traveled around a lot, so Clint bounced from town to town, school to school. He was an athlete, played basketball. In high school, after high school, he went into the Army, and luckily for him, he was given lifeguard duty up in the Bay Area, and that's where he spent most of his tour of duty, was in as a lifeguard duty. The big story during his military career was he hitched a ride back from wherever he was located at the time, probably Southern California to Northern California, and the plane crashed, and he and the pilot ditched out, and he swam, I don't know how many miles to shore, but it was in the Monterey area, and he survived the airplane crash, and that was his highlight of his military career. When he got out of the military, he took advantage of what we call the GI Bill and went to college, junior college, and basically spent his time digging ditches and labor work until some friends decided he should try acting, and he went into acting classes, and he really liked it, and so he finally signed a contract with Universal. And the great story there was, after his 7-year contract was up, both he and Burt Reynolds were fired on the same day. They told Burt that he couldn't act, and they told Clint that he has his Adam's apple stuck out, and Burt always told him, well, I can learn to act, but you're stuck with that Adam's apple. So that's where that came from.
Tom, can you imagine that conversation? You can't act, Bert, and I don't like your Adam's apple. So they went back and forth, Tom.
Back and forth. So one day Clint was back in the studio visiting some friends, and he was noticed by a producer and asked him if he had done any acting. He didn't know who Clint was. He said yes, he had been in a few movies in the early 50s. One of them was Tarantula, if you remember that one. And anyways, he had him try out for the role of Rowdy Yates for Rawhide, and he passed the test, and they hired him.
Well, Tom.
So he became a TV star.
Tarantula, isn't he one of the bomber pilots?
He's the bomber pilot at the end that takes out the tarantula. Yeah, you can barely recognize him because of the
make my tarantula
oxygen mask. Yeah,
right.
He was also in Return of the Creature. I think Brett Halsey's in that one, and he plays a lab assistant in that.
And Leonard Nimoy is in one too. He plays an army guy on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So all these TV actors all somehow made a bad horror film in the 50s, right, Tom?
Easy, yeah. Yep.
Right. Anyway, let's talk about Rowdy Yates for a second, Tom. This was, what do you say, career-defining in a level of different avenues. This was his first step, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, he learned his acting chops there, and according to him, he spent a lot of time watching the directors, the cameramen, and learning the business. So he got his education in filmmaking on Rawhide, and the series lasted from 1959 to 1965, so it was on, 6 years, and on CBS on, I think it was Friday nights. Producer was Charles Marcus Warren, who was also the guy who brought the story to screen. There were multiple directors and multiple screenwriters over the course of the series.
What are some, Tom, who are some of the guest stars that appeared?
Oh my God! You name them. I mean, you start to think of Lee Van Cleef was in there on some of them. I mean, Warren Oates, all the people that you can think of that became stars in the 60s.
Like a Warren Beatty.
Yeah, all older actresses. Joan Crawford was probably in one. Betty Davis, those type of.
That's really
people.
cool.
But,
yeah, like in a revolving. That's what they did in the heyday of TV, Tom.
Yep, they still had name quality. So if you saw in a TV guide that Betty Davis was going to be on a ride,
you circled it.
Yeah, your parents watched it, while you watched Rowdy.
What I'm saying is, in those days, a lot of stars who were big in the 40s and 50s, like a Betty Davis or Joan Crawford, or some of the actors who appeared, might have even been in silent films, maybe even Buddy Rogers, Tom. Yeah. They would appear on a TV show, whether it's a Western or non-Western, but a lot of them did cut their teeth on Rawhide, on Cimarron Strip, on
Yep.
Bonanza, right, Tom?
That's right. That's where they were seen. Also, we all know the song sung by Frankie Lane, and the music was by Dmitri Tiomkin. Head 'em up, roll 'em out. We all know that one. It's
Radamin Rawhide.
probably the most well-known theme song of the TV westerns. But the cast on there was a couple of people that come into his life later on. Gil Favor was played by Eric Fleming, and we'll talk about him when we get to Fistful of Dollars. Clint played Rowdy Yates. Paul Brinegar played Wishbone, who showed up later in Outlaw Josie Wales. Steve Raines played Jim Quince, who I really liked, but he was only on for a season or two, and then his character disappeared. Sheb Woolley, who sang The Purple People Eater, was a regular, played Pete Nolan. James Murdoch played Mushy, which was the absolute worst character on the series.
I'm mushy.
I'm Mushy. And then William R. Tompkins played Toothless, who also comes back in Fistful of Dollars. We'll talk about that. And then the one that always gets me, Jay, is an actor named Robert Cabal. He played the actor Jesus. Really, it was Jesus or Jesus, but they were afraid to offend the viewing public by putting Jesus on there, so they spelled it Heysoos, Jesus,
That's one of the
which
tidbits.
was the sounds like the
I didn't
Spanish
even know
pronunciation.
that.
Yeah.
Tom, I didn't even know that till you told
Yep,
me.
that's
Once
true.
again, you
Yep.
learn something from Tom Betts every day. Okay, so after Rawhide, Tom, tell us the story, and it's a good one. He was looking for work, wasn't just looking to pay rent and just get a start as an actor.
What
Wait a minute,
happened
Tom.
was because of the TV industry, the studio industry, they wouldn't let these guys do anything out of their control. They basically owned them. He could only do something on his own when the season was over. So between season 2, season 3, he could go out and do his stuff that he wanted to do or go on vacation. And that's when he was approached by, I think after season 6, by Sergio Leone, who was looking for an actor to play the man with no name.
Okay, hold on,
And
Tom.
you want to
Tom.
name some people, John?
Jay,
Jay,
John?
go ahead, Jay. You want to name some of the actors?
No, what I was going to say is we all know. No, I'd rather hear it come from you, Tom. We all know some of the names that were auditioned for. Was the man with no name?
The
Tom?
man with no name, right?
And I was one of them. Tom was one of them. And I'm sure many of you out there would know. The story was about a handful of later to be spaghetti western stars all try. And why not? It's open season. It's Italy. It wasn't like it was just privately offered to Clint. It would be naive to think so. And so, but Sergio went with Clint. But there was at first he maybe didn't want to do it. He didn't understand the language. He's run and gun. I'm not used to this where we have, different setups in the States. So the language barrier at first, Tom. And then, of course, the paltry sum he was paid. How much was it? 15 grand, Tom?
Well, that's what they say. But remember, we showed his contract a couple of weeks ago, and it was only 13.5.
Wow,
So it was even less than that. But his
I like
reasoning
you
was,
laughing
Jay,
at my contract.
his reasoning was he got a free trip to Italy and Spain, which he had never been, and he'd make a few bucks, and he figured the film would never be seen, so it wouldn't interfere with his career.
Right. So tell us some of the actors who tried out, Tom.
Well, Richard Harrison is supposedly number one because he was there, and it makes a lot of sense because he had already made one or two Italian, Spanish westerns, and he had a name, so that makes sense. Eric Fleming, of course, which we just mentioned as the star of Rawhide, was also thought of, but he died in a canoe accident in South America, so he was out. Henry Fonda is the number one American actor that Sergio wanted to go after, but like you said, his price was too high. He wanted to go with Charles Bronson, and Bronson's price was too high. Then James Coburn, again, same thing. James Coburn turned it down. Lee Marvin, I think Lee Marvin would have been interesting. Stuart Whitman says he was contacted. I don't know about that because we always laugh at that because he turned down The Man with No Name, but he accepted a role in Captain Apache. Okay. Ty Harden was contacted. He was already over there. Cliff Robertson was always a surprise when I saw him on the list. Frank Wolf, I've never heard that one before, but he pops up. Tony Kendall, I don't know about that one because Tony Kendall wasn't a big known name at that time. Steve Reeves, that makes some sense. Horst Buchholz, maybe because of the Magnificent Seven, and this was a German co-production. Maybe his name was offered. Henry Silva, now that'd have been interesting to have him there. Rory Calhoun and Tony Russell. And Tony Russell had done some Zorro films over there, so he was known, but that's the list that I've put together of names that pop up. And every so often, you'll see something next year that you've never heard of before, you know.
Right. And that, Tom, that was a new segment we've introduced called Who Auditioned Tom? So
Yeah, right.
we ask you
Right.
different spaghetti western questions, but who auditioned for it
Yep.
beside the guy who got it? Only here on the Spaghetti Westerns podcast. So we've got a lot of great stuff moving on. We have Book of the Week, Album of the Week, Autograph of the Week. No WAI Vault because Tom's going to show some rare posters instead. And the Weekly News, which has a lot of DVD news in it. That's where I take a smoke and a jog. And I'm back in about 10. So, but anyway, we want to welcome you all, our regular listeners and new time listeners, ones who are here live, and as well as the ones who archive the show. They save it among their playlists. And we want to thank you very much. We've been almost a year going. About 1,300, almost 1,400 full-time zombies who will bow to our every command, Tom. Buy this DVD. Don't rent that.
Yeah.
Get this poster. Watch this show. Well, we appreciate all our fans from all over the world. And it's different. It's a different time zone. It's 4 a.m. for somebody, or it's 6 a.m. for somebody waking up with cereal. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, Tom, you've got your Once Upon a Time in Spaghetti Westerns podcast hat. We have that in poncho and in coffee mug. Tom, that's just a joke. But anyway, or you can have your name embroidered on the back of the poncho.
There you go.
Is that the one that Clint gave you? Be careful with this one, Tom.
Yeah, this is the one with all the holes in it.
Right, he kept on
From the
purpose.
shooting. Yeah.
Make sure you aim for the heart.
There
Yeah,
you go.
okay. So moving on, Tom, you want to give us a little synopsis on the film?
Well, Fistful of Dollars, we all know Clint Eastwood drifts into town, and some guys shoot his mule out from under him. He ends up in the saloon and learns that there's two gangs in town. One sells guns and one sells whiskey, and he thinks he can make a living by pitting one group against the other as a go-between. He won't take sides. He'll just bounce from back and forth from one to the other. So to show off his shooting skills, he goes to Don Benito Rojo, and tells him that he hears he's looking for men to hire, but he doesn't come cheap. So he wants to demonstrate his shooting skills. So he goes walking down the street and sees the coffin maker and tells him to get 3 coffins ready, and then goes up to the Baxter men and chews him out for shooting the mule out from under him. And they laugh and spit, and they go for their guns, and he outshoots 5 of them. If you look, it's actually 5, but he comes back and says, "My mistake, 4 coffins." So that's how he shows how good he is with a gun. And from that point on, he just pits one against the other until he's finally caught, and then by the Rojos and beaten to a pulp, basically, and escapes there by a neat trick of rolling the wine barrel down and blowing it up. And gets out of town, recuperates in a mine, comes back and tells Ramon, like you said, his key was he shoots with a rifle, and his key expression was, when a man with a rifle meets a man with a 45, the man with the 45 is a dead man. So Clint walks down the street, and Rojo takes his rifle and starts shooting him, and he starts to crumple and go down, gets back up, goes down, gets back up, keeps telling Ramon to shoot for the heart. Finally, he ends up pasting him next to some barrels, and he runs out of cartridges, and Clint opens up the poncho and shows that he's made a steel vest under there, and all the bullet holes, which are just dents, have gone for the heart. So he's defeated Ramon, and then shoots all of him. He shoots him and the other henchman in a duel at the very end, because he turns the tables on Ramon, and gives Ramon one bullet. He takes one bullet, and of course he can fill the cartridge onto the into the gun much faster than Ramon can into the rifle, and then shoots him dead. Rides out
Right.
of town. Yep.
One of the greatest synopses he's ever heard. It's like listening to Edgar Allan Poe talk, Tom. I love it.
Well, the thing I learned, Jay, was in the UK they cut like 4 minutes out of the release because of the beating scenes. They didn't like the fact that Clint was beaten up so bad in the wine cellar and put a cigarette out on his hand and crushed his hand and all that. So they basically cut 4 minutes out. Also, at the very end of the movie, you notice Ramon spins around and goes down in the well, and there's blood coming out of his mouth, and they didn't want to show that. So that was the UK cut. It was 4 minutes shorter.
Which one? I get confused. You're not talking about the prelogue with Harry Dean Stanton.
Oh, we're going to talk about that. Yeah, that was another joke. In I think it was 1977 in August, they finally released Fistful of Dollars on national TV on ABC, and they thought it was too violent. And this man, Clint Eastwood's character, was corrupt. That he was had no morals. So they decided to make a prologue, and it had the Eastwood character in a cell I guess it was a jail or a prison, and he's taken up to see the prison warden, who turns out to be Harry Dean Stanton. And Stanton offers to commute his sentence if he'll go down to San Miguel and restore order to the town. Neither Eastwood or Leone participated in the new sequence. It was seen only from, and he was only seen from the rear and the side. Every time they showed his face, they just showed his eyes, and it was a cutout from any of the Dollars movies that just showed Clint's eyes.
But it still he had his gear
Poncho.
on and his holster and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that cutaway.
The funny scene, Jay, is when he's walking up the stairs. Those two soldiers are like 1.5 feet taller than he is, and Clint's 6'4".
I know, who is it? Craig Hill?
I know,
And they
terrible.
got Craig Hill to fill in.
Terrible. And they've
Or
asked
Tony
Monty
Anthony.
Hellman where they filmed that scene, and he doesn't remember. It was someplace down in Mexico. That's all he knows.
Okay.
And it can be found on the special edition DVD and later Blu-ray releases, because somebody, I forgot his name, went and rented a VHS recorder and recorded that when it came on TV and kept it all these years. So, I mean, it must have been worth a fortune.
I
He was
have
the
it,
only
Tom.
one that had it. Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It was a Betamax, yeah.
So let's take this is a candid from the making of the film. There's a beardless Sergio Leone having a laugh. I actually have this autograph, Tom.
Do you? Yeah.
But anyway, but not this particular photo. Tom, where's your Clint statue or doll?
He moved. He went down the street to take care of those guys spitting at his
Oh,
work.
okay.
There he is.
Get him back. There you go. Look at the likeness, Tom.
Did a good job. Looks like him.
Right, Tom was able.
I forgot a surprise for you, Jay.
Oh, okay, but don't tell me till the end.
No. It's got to go now because we've already covered it.
All
Rawhide.
right. Wait a minute. Let me get a close up. Hold on. You got a rowdy Tom.
I've got a Rowdy Yates
That's awesome,
official.
Tom.
Official. It's 1 out of 1,000.
He's in a cyber genetic chamber.
He does. Yeah. He doesn't look anything like Clint Eastwood.
No, I know. Tom, I can be honest with you. I didn't want to tell anybody. They can't give those away on Amazon.
I know.
There's like 1 billion of them.
Yeah,
I'm sure
I know.
everybody has a Rowdy Yates, Tom.
That's why I couldn't pass up on it.
So anyway, I thought I'd share some news with everybody, which would be fun. I'm going to soon open up, maybe with either video or photos, the Once Upon a Time in Spaghetti Westerns podcast, Memorabilia Museum, Tom.
There you go.
So it'll be like a segment every week in the next coming weeks where I show a piece of the museum and what we have planned using, statuary, figures, posters, autographs, a virtual museum, Tom.
Are we going to hear sawing and buzzing and stuff in the background?
No. That'll all be edited out. I'll be like
Okay,
Rod
good.
Serling, welcome to the Spaghetti Western Museum.
Good.
So yeah, I'll just show you just different fun things that are pretty rare, statuary included. I got something pretty rare coming up that I'd like to share with everybody. Just fun stuff. You see that I'm preserving the heart and soul. So is Tom, and so have dozens of you out there with your own little with your own little collections. I'm just
Everybody's
kidding,
got a little
folks.
collection. Yep.
We all have our own collections. They're all equally worthy. But I'm actually making it one of my God-given duties to save these for, so on and on. The artwork in postery, and statuary can be saved, Tom. As is Tom saving the audio soundtracks for tomorrow's listener, huh, Tom?
That's right.
Or is your son off to the used record store shop and for a nickel a piece here? This was Dad. Sorry, Dad.
Yeah, right.
All the soundtracks. But no, I have it in my will to, my son has to keep it somewhere in a closet. Anyway, so Tom, what's our next film coming up was the second in the Leone trilogies.
Yep.
And which
For a
film
few
was that,
dollars
Tom?
more. That was for a few dollars more. And the story is that Clint didn't even know that Fistful of Dollars was a big hit in Italy because it was billed over there as The Magnificent Stranger. So when he would read something about The Magnificent Stranger in Variety, he would just pass over. But anyways, he was hired to come back and reprise his role as the man with no name. And this time they wanted to add another actor to counteract him. And he was called the Man in Black, which turned out to be Colonel Douglas Mortimer. And I think the trailers used to say, the man with no name is back, the man in black is waiting. And when I saw Lee Van Cleef, I'm going, oh, this is great. I love Lee Van Cleef. But I thought he was going to be the villain because he was in black. This was a cutout of The Magnificent Stranger, which we'll talk about in a minute, that his producers from Fistful put out because Leone got rid of them after the first film because he thought he was getting hijacked on the royalties for it. Anyways, they hired Lee Van Cleef, who was like we talked about before with Mike Malloy. He was down on his luck. Again, Sergio went for the top tier actors. He wanted Henry Fonda to play the role, Charles Bronson and Lee Marvin, and they all turned him down. Apparently, I'm guessing because they didn't know anything about spaghetti westerns.
Wait,
They
Tom.
hadn't been released over here.
Who auditioned, Tom?
Who auditioned?
Yeah.
Tell me.
No, you tell me. You just said their names. Who auditioned, Tom?
Henry Fonda, Charles Bronson, Lee Marvin. They didn't audition. They were offered the role.
Oh, okay, here you go. And
They took it, but they
not for me, thank you. I'll never make a film with this Leone guy.
Yeah, well, remember, Fistful wasn't released over here until 66. And this was 65, so they didn't know how big of a hit it was. They weren't interested in making films in Europe at that time.
Tom Bronson just would have been the same. You can't get any bigger than he was anyway.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter if they would have offered it to him. Fonda, probably you're right, at that stage of the career. Always a couple years later, Sergio came out and wanted someone with blue eyes, so. But anyway, yeah, it was I'm glad it fell into Lee Van Cleef's hands because no one else could have played that. I heard also, didn't Terrence Stamp audition, Tom?
Oh, God. No, but the other surprise I learned this week is that they offered Henry Silva the role of Wilde, which eventually went to Klaus Kinski.
Could you imagine?
Can you imagine that? Yeah. Now we can see him with a hump.
Very, very bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about that one either. Anyways, for a few dollars more, it was two bounty hunters going after El Indio for different reasons. One wanted revenge and one wanted the bucks. So they end up joining together and go after him. But El Indio sort of surprises them and steals the money out from under their noses, so they have to go back, one on the inside, one on the outside, and follow El Indio back to his hideout. And they join again together there, but El Indio discovers them. Always suspected that they were bounty hunters. Again, beats them to a pulp, turns them loose without their guns. They get their guns, get some ammunition, and eliminate his band. And then the final duel at the end with the watch is a classic. And Lee rides away with his mission completed, his revenge completed, and lets Clint take the bounty for all the outlaw, the gang members.
Where was that film? That end scene, Tom?
Los Albericocas, that's the same town that Clint rides into in the very beginning of Fistful of Dollars, where all the widows are looking out the windows at him.
And,
It was used in quite a few.
And where's Sad Hill, Tom?
Sad Hill is in Burgos.
No, okay.
So is
How
the
far
bridge.
is that?
Oh, it's way down. It's not close.
Because
Not close
Tom's
at
giving
all.
tours of Almeria once
Yeah.
this COVID's over.
They used to. There used to be a place called Taco Tours, but they put signs up there.
Don't get me
Like,
started, Tom. Hey, I'll show you Almeria. Okay, so then you'll disappear and you'll never be found again, Tom.
But the other little trivia about when Clint rides into Agua Caliente, they tell him they have never seen him shoot. They want to see him shoot. So they send him in there, and you see all these women in black garb
Where are my
running for their
women?
houses. Remember that? My 50 women.
Right.
Anyways, they had a funeral in town that week, and that's why they were all dressed in black. So
Oh.
they paid them as extras, and they just had their costumes as their normal dress.
But tell us another story about the film, Tom. Like, how long did it take to shoot?
Knowing Leone, probably 2 months. I don't think he did. He did a lot of retakes, is what I've been told. But the joke is that there's probably 5 times as much film shot as was ever made it to the movie. That's why there's all these scenes of different outtakes that you never see in the film.
Right.
Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is a classic one where the hotel woman is in bed with Clint. Stuff like that you don't see in the movie. So where did it go?
So I'm just letting you know the buzz sawing next to me for 13 weeks.
Yeah.
It's just right now as we're talking. Okay, so let's move on. I got just one other thing we could look at. One last. There we go. So tell us, what about Gian Maria Volante? How was he chosen for the role of El Indio, Tom?
That's a good question. I've never learned why he chose him. I don't know, because he was a theater actor. He wasn't a film actor. But Leone must have seen something in him. I've never heard of anybody else being auditioned for the role or thought about for the role. So if any of the viewers know that story, well, let me know. I'd love to hear it.
Well, he was already a pretty well-known actor, Tom.
Well, he was known, yeah, maybe because they would make a draw for the Italian market. Having
Yeah,
an
and-
Italian actor's name in there. But why did he go by Johnny Wells? And that was just, unless that was just for the English market, they changed his name.
Well, I'm thinking, Tom. No, he made political films. Wasn't he a communist?
Yeah, he was a communist, yeah. Yep.
There you go. It's like he welcomed to make it in Italy and drink the wine, enjoy the women, do his thing. The women, Tom. Where are my women?
More women.
I know. We're gonna have to get Tony Anthony on the show just so I could say that to him, Tom.
Have him say it, yeah.
Right. Tell us real quick about the Magnificent Stranger and the
Okay,
controversy with that. Tom.
after Fistful of Dollars, and it became such a big hit, you know there's going to be graft involved because no one expected it to be a big hit. So I'm sure the producers skimmed money off the top and reported to Leone that, it wasn't as big as he thought it was. This is his cut. And remember, Clint only got his salary. He didn't get a portion of the movie. He just got his salary. So Sergio was sort of ticked off about this and got rid of the producers on the film and went on to make for a few dollars more. Well, the producers weren't going to stay in the background and say, my God, we got a hit here. How are we going to capitalize on it? They went and found a couple of episodes of Rawhide and pieced them together and then released it as the Il Magnifico Straniero, which was the original title for Fistful of Dollars, the working title. And they started to release it, and Clint got word of it and sued him in court. And Clint won, and they took the movie down. But for some reason, it was released in Mexico. I don't know if it had been released there and he wasn't aware of it, but it was released in Mexico, and you can still find on eBay copies of the posters and the lobby cards and stuff like that. Pretty reasonable prices, but
I
they're there.
Tom, the posters rock actually.
Yeah, but
There's
see,
a
he
few
doesn't look
of
like the
them.
man. He doesn't look like the man with no name. He looks like Rowdy Yates.
No, I don't mean this one.
Yeah.
The first two I showed, I
Oh
have
yeah.
one of
Right.
them.
Right.
They're
Go back to
more
the first one.
well, the one where he's creeping on behind somebody and he's about to shoot him in the back or
Yeah.
something.
I mean,
But anyway, yeah, I just thought this was a
posters go from
strange
looking
film.
like the man with no name to looking like Rowdy Yates. So.
Right. Or the man with no name shaved, Tom.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep. And I don't know how they covered it up in the dialogue, but it would have been all, dubbed so they could make him say anything he wanted to say.
Right.
I'm sure they didn't call him Rowdy in there. They probably called him nothing.
Don't call me Rowdy.
Yeah. Now the other one I've heard, and I have no proof of this, but Michael Ferguson from Canada says that they were also going to do one called El Gringero, or El Gringo, which was also going to be a couple of episodes of Rawhide pieced together. But I've never found any information beyond that. Maybe they were in the thinking stages of releasing a follow-up to El Magnifico Stranger, and when the lawsuit came, it just dissolved. So it never went any further than, a thought process.
Right. Yeah, well, that makes sense. At that point, things are coming along, and you don't get the okay from the production company and the lead actor sometimes. But you would never know, Tom, if you wouldn't have went through your archives and found this out. I called Tom the George Putnam of spaghetti westerns.
Well, the other thing, Jay, this was not something that didn't happen over there. A lot of TV series were spliced together and released in Italy and Germany and whatever as full-fledged films.
Right.
But they had the blessings of the United States distributors or producers. They probably got a cut, but they released those over there. I know a couple of Adventures of Wild Bill Hickok with Guy Madison were released as full-length features, and you can go on some of the Italian poster sites and see posters of stuff, and you go, what the heck is this? Well, it's TV episodes released as theater. Because the Italians used to go to the theater 4 or 5 days a week because they didn't have TV. So that's where they spent their leisure time, was in the theater. So they would change features a couple of times a week. So they kept running out of films that they could show.
So, Tom, at this point in Clint's career, he was already an international star. So did he, because we purposely have not mentioned all the other films he's made in different genres. I mean,
Right.
as great as some of those are, Kelly's Heroes and you name it, Coligan's Bluff, Tom. This is about his spaghetti western years after Rawhide, right? In case you're wondering, why haven't you mentioned Sudden Impact?
Yeah, right.
Right, or Dirty Harry.
Yep.
So, right. Anyway, let's get to what I guess. What do you think, Tom? Is this the best out of the trilogy, or his best?
It's probably the best film of the trilogy. I don't know if it's Clint's best because he takes a back seat to Eli Wallach. I mean, why Eli Wallach wasn't nominated for an Academy Award?
Oh yeah.
Everybody wants to know. I mean, he just did a fantastic job. He's almost takes a back seat to Lee Van Cleef's character as Sentenza. I mean, he's like the third of the three, where he should be the star. He is in name, but not character-wise,
Right. Yeah. It's. Well, I have a fondness for this one as well. You can't really go wrong. Pick any of the 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Right. I love Duck You Sucker. Of course, James Coburn makes it fun for me. And what do you mean revolution? I don't want no revolution.
And I like the one in the boxcar where the pigeon poops on Eli's head or Rod's head, and he says, "But for the rich, you sing."
Right. But for the rich,
this
you
probably
sing.
This probably has the most notoriety of any of the 3 because it had the biggest budget. He went to America and filmed, parts over here. So they did quite a bit more because budget-wise.
Right. So let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Where did this come from, Tom? And
It was an error when they excuse me when they showed United Artists for a few dollars more. They just jumped up and down and go, oh, more. So they talked to the Luciano Vincenzoni, who was the co-writer, for a few dollars more, and asked him if there's anything more in the pipeline. Well, he wasn't going to say no, so on the spot, he made up the story of these three rogues during the Civil War going after a treasure, and they gave him an advance on the spot. And I mean, Sergio's now put in a predicament where he's got to come up with a film that someone else mouthed off about it. But he went ahead and did it. And I always thought one of the problems that Sergio had was every film that he did, he thought he had to outdo himself from the film before. So they kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is a pure example of that. I mean, it's the biggest of the three, and it covers the most ground.
Oh yeah, the budget, especially with the war scenes, that's a whole other movie. If they just would have put that in a separate
Yeah,
middle called The Man with No Name and Tuco Go to War,
right.
that would have made sense as a separate movie.
Well, remember after he gets beat up and Tuco takes him to the mission, they ride away, and there's usually a cut scene that shows them going through a battlefield after the battle, and there's cannons there, dead bodies, a dead horse. I mean, they could have shown that as an example of the different scenes of the war that they had come upon during their quest to find the treasure. But when they throw an actual battle in there with thousands of character actors, which happen to be the Spanish army, but I mean, still, to coordinate all that was quite a feat.
Tom, what's the story about they blew up the bridge before
Oh
they
God, yeah,
yelled
the bridge.
roll them or something?
Yeah, again they had the Spanish army who was stationed. They had I don't know how big of a force they had stationed outside of Burgos, but they were there, and Sergio sweet talked them into helping him build Sad Hill Cemetery and also the Langstone Bridge. So they spent a month or so building Langstone Bridge, and I think Carlos Simi, who's the guy that did El Paso and some of the other scenes, he was the architect, was so impressed with the bridge that he wanted the commandant to throw the switch to blow up the bridge. And he said, when you hear this, it was an Italian word, say, okay, to go ahead and push the plunger. Well, all up and down the line, the assistant directors were going, everybody okay over there? Everybody okay over here? You ready to go? Okay. And he heard the okay sign or signal, and he blew the bridge up, and no cameras were rolling, nothing. So they didn't capture 1 foot of the bridge blowing up. Sergio was just ticked. You couldn't believe. So the colonel or the general apologized profusely and told Sergio, go film something someplace else, come back, we'll have it built in 2 weeks. And sure enough, they had it built in 2 weeks. My favorite scene in this one, Jay, is the story is when Clint came back from them putting dynamite on the bridge to blow it up, he and Tuco are supposed to jump in that foxhole, and Clint looks at the bridge, he looks at the foxhole, and looks pretty close, and he asks Sergio, where are you going to be? And Sergio turns around, points to the top of this hill, which was like 300 yards away, and he says, well, if you're going to be up there, I'm not going to be down here. So they got some stunt doubles to do that positioning, and if you watch it, there's a big chunk of wood that comes and flies and embeds itself in a sandbag right below the camera. I mean, it misses the stuntman's head by less than a foot. I mean, it could have taken Clint's head off if it actually happened. But that's the story on the bridge.
Oh, okay. I love that story on the bridge, Tom. So, during the making of the film, it was probably I wouldn't say the toughest conditions, but it took the longest because of all the scenes.
Yeah, I bet you that was 4 or 5 months, easy.
It was a big. I mean, he didn't really. It was a bigger budget than the first one and the second one.
Yep.
So
And they were in southern Spain, they were in northern Spain. All the bridge, the monastery, the Sad Hill, that's all in northern Spain. All the desert stuff is all in southern Spain, and so that was quite a feat to go back and forth.
So, but once again, it solidified Clint as an international mega actor in these films. For some odd reason, giallo and I guess horror, well, maybe a little bit in horror, some of the other genres didn't really would do that for someone's career, but spaghetti westerns, I guess, had at least enough pull with the critics, even though they might be scoffed at, Tom,
Yeah.
for being, whatever, copies of American ones with zoom-ins and weird colors and bosom, bartenders, dresses. It's still, you would be known worldwide because they would
Right.
play worldwide,
Yep. Well,
regardless of support from the critics, Tom.
Fistful, remember, they played the music, Hugo Montenegro, on the radio. It was probably in the top 10. So when's the last time you've heard a Giallo main theme or an Italian police film played on the radio? And then when The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly came out, it was such a fantastic song. It played, and I mean, it just captured an audience, and fans clamored for Italian westerns to be released over here. So anything with an American actor as a star usually got a pretty good release, or at least an attempted release in the States.
I think Eli Wallach and Clint remained friends until,
Till he died.
yeah.
Till Eli died, yeah. He would put him in some of his later films, and Eli loved it because what's the one film he's in, he plays a liquor store owner. And he only was on there for a day, and it was a couple of hours of shoot, but he put him behind the counter, and he said, Eli, when you're ready. In other words, not, action, go. He let Eli lead, and he was really impressed by that because Clint treated him as a star. And, of course, he gave him the honorary Oscar, and same with Morricone, so, yeah.
No, I think so. It's great that they shared a friendship. Well, also Lee had been, Lee Van Cleef as well. He'd been on Rawhide earlier,
Yep.
so they were friends as well. And
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people were disappointed because at the end of Fistful, Lee says, or Clint says to Lee, maybe another time. And we always wanted that other time to come along, to have them be together
maybe some
again.
other time.
Maybe some other time, yeah, right.
Problem boy?
But yeah, as you say, Jay, I mean, the spaghetti westerns were played down and disgraced, and Clint was too. I mean, he was the world's worst actor. And I remember I've got it someplace in his folder. Life magazine said the world's most idolized actor or the best actor, and it was a picture of Clint Eastwood. And I mean, the critics just went crazy, and they just downplayed him all the time about how bad of an actor he was. Can you think of anybody else that was treated like that? I mean, I kept thinking maybe Sylvester Stallone. I mean, he's always talked about Adrian, but he rose above that. And I mean, today Clint is renowned as one of the greatest directors of all time.
Well, look at little Ronnie Howard, Tom. He was Opie.
Yeah, Ron Howard, same thing. Yeah, Lil Opie. Yep. So
No, Clint, just to take a break from spaghetti westerns, yeah, his directorial films are fantastic. From the first one that he shot in Carmel, Tom.
Play
No,
Misty.
the one where he
me.
plays
Yep.
the radio DJ.
Play Misty for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
And because up until that point, I was always a fan of what's her name, the chick with the scissors.
Oh yeah, I know who you mean. The Leone. Yeah. What is her
At
name?
the end, where she holds it with her wrong hand.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be the one.
Well,
Wait,
and the good
I
part,
couldn't
Jay,
sleep for
is
days after that, Tom.
out on the balcony, I kept saying, "Hit her, hit her!" And he
Right.
finally does. Yeah.
Well, that's great, Tom. So,
But he got to be so good, Jay, that what he would do is that he would make one movie for the studio, and they would let him direct one movie on his own.
right.
So that was his.
Well, yeah,
his little
I know
way.
you're a fan of the Bronco Billies, Tom.
I like Bronco Billy. Yeah, I do.
Or Any Which Way You Can, right, Tom?
Those I could pass on, but yeah.
Well, see, I like Bill Smith. I just like the fighting scenes.
Oh, this fighting scene's great. Yeah.
It's you and me. All right.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were talking about the trilogy that Clint did for Sergio Leone, and we talked about Rawhide and Magnificent Stranger, and we talked about the Unmade Gringo project, Tom,
Yep.
and that he's
El
also he's a
Gringero.
world-renowned director nowadays. But we wanted to take a look at his spaghetti western days, and I think showing some photos from the past, and and recounting some maybe unknown stories that you did about blowing up the bridge or who was up for certain roles. But we thought it was at least time we paid homage to the one
Do
and
you want to
only.
show at this
Yeah.
point? Do you want to show Half Soldier?
Well, I thought we'd save Half
Do you
Soldier,
have him?
Tom.
Okay, you save him again. Okay.
You keep throwing me under the bus, Jay. Here you go, Half Soldier. Clink. Boys, it's on me.
Hand me
no, we
down a
can-
whiskey, Luke.
Right. No, we can do Half Soldier another time. We can do a whole show on Half Soldier. Anyway, folks, we can get right to the other good stuff that we like to do, and first of all, the first thing would be is to do that. So we want to thank you all for joining us on this special tribute to the spaghetti westerns of Clint Eastwood. And as you know, every week we have a special segment dedicated to the world of books and albums and autographs. Sometimes we go back in time to the WAI vault, and there's always a weekly news. And then we have a new segment called Who Auditioned Tom,
Oh, good.
where we ask who auditioned for that role. We could have used you probably on episode 1, so maybe we'll scrap that. Let me delete that from the Chiron. That was
That's
just
one
for
thing.
today.
That's one thing. When I interview these guys, I always ask them, "Were there any roles that you turned down, or any films that you started to make and didn't make, or whatever?" Because that
Well, you know
stuff
what
is
Clint
lost.
said? I
Yeah.
saw him he did a speaking engagement. What films did you turn down? Did you ever get to work with Brian De Palma? No, but I did turn down Scarface.
Mm-hmm. See, Adam West could have been offered
Could you
Fistful
imagine?
of Dollars films.
Say hello to my little friend. So anyway, folks, moving right along. I think we can tackle Book of the Week, Tom. And
Yep.
you have a very special, or should I go first since you have a
Go ahead.
special?
Go ahead.
Okay, Book of the Week by yours truly, Tom. It's a good one. It's kind of written from a holds no barred, kick-ass. It's an enjoyable read. Let's just put it to you that way. There's no talking down. And he's a director, of course, who loves spaghetti westerns himself. And we're talking about Sir Alex Cox, Tom.
Cox. Yep.
10,000 Ways to Muerto.
Get
It's
the
his
revised.
take. It's
get
a
the
fun one.
revised
It's like
version.
if Tarantino wrote one. And it would be nice if we actually
Well,
added to what we were doing.
Again,
So,
if you like Alex Cox, you'll love the book. If you don't care for Alex Cox, it's a stretch. But I think the second one is revised a bit, isn't it, Jay?
it is. I think there's 2 or 3 revisions. I
Yeah.
actually have one of his original manuscripts. I'm so deep into this collecting stuff that when the manuscript first went on eBay a couple years ago, 10, 15 years ago, I think it was like $250. One of the early copies he made, so I grabbed it. Where it doesn't have a cover yet.
Right, right.
Anyway, so great. No, actually, I have to tell you, Tom, whether you like him or not, I like his takes on the films anyway.
Exactly. He writes
But
it as
if you have a problem with him,
he writes it as a fan, which
right, like
is,
Sir
is what
Christopher
I
Frayling,
like.
we love him to death, but sometimes it's a little preachy. I try to bypass that. But he would say, "What do you mean preachy?" So, Tom, what's your book of the week?
Well, staying with the Eastwood theme,
What?
it's the films of Clint Eastwood,
Nice.
1982. Citadel Press has 224 pages. It's in English. It was reissued in 1993, which would bring it up to date a little bit more, but it's full of some great pictures, a synopsis, a lot of commentary by reviews from Variety and different Hollywood Reporter, stuff like that.
I thought you were going to show a couple, or is that something else you're showing a couple of?
No, the other one, the album of the week.
Tom has a surprise for everybody today. He's pulling a J. He's going to show more than one. Okay, so let's move on to that album of the week. What do you got, Tom?
Well, you got to realize that when we saw Fistful of Dollars and we'd run out of the theater and go to the record store to get a copy of the LP for Fistful of Dollars, they would look at you and say, "What? Who? Never heard of Ennio Morricone? Don't know who this guy is." So it became such a big hit that his music had not been released over here. We had to listen to cover versions. So I've got my cover versions, And we've all know Hugo Montenegro, which had the big hit, so I won't show that one. But some of the other ones were Leroy Holmes and his orchestra did for a Fistful for a few dollars more. There's the back. He's got both Fistful and for a few dollars more.
That
on
looks like an
one.
original, Tom.
That's an original wear, a lot of wear on that one. And then he came up with Once Upon a Time in the West. But there's other soundtracks on here. The Big
Wait,
Gun
Tom?
Downs. Yep.
That's not Clint Eastwood.
No, it's not. That's who. I don't know who that
That's
is.
Rich Little, Tom.
It could be Rich Little. Anyways, the Big Gun Down's on here. Once Upon a Time in the West. True Grit. It's a compilation album. And then they got really bad, and we would buy them just for the covers. And this one's by the Hollywood Soundmakers.
Lawrence Welker presents
That's
the
good
great
one, yeah.
music from a fistful of dollars,
Yep.
a one and a two.
And these all came out in, what have I got here? 67 and 68. United Artists and Sunset Records. They're all in stereo. I'll have either 12 or 10 tracks, and their value is anywhere from $6 to $10. So nothing there, but I just wanted to show everybody what we had to listen to in those days if we wanted to listen to Morricone.
Right, that's all you had on
That's all
the
we
old.
had.
Right, I had
Cover
one of those record players. You push the lever on the right, you automatically lowered the record. It's been so long, Tom. Right. Anyway,
And then you had to move the needle yourself.
right, or it would skip, or it would skip, or it would
Yeah.
skip. Yeah. So let's get to autograph of the week, Tom.
All right, you can start off with that one.
All righty. What do we have for everybody here today? Well, boys and girls, I think I might have shown Brett Halsey's a friend. So, of course, I have multiple Bretts. I don't think I showed this one. I apologize if I did. But it's a group shot from Today We Kill, Tomorrow We Die.
Ta-da!
So, anyway, that was fun. Brett's a fan and a friend. It's nice when you can call them both, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
I think Klaus Kinski would have been both a fan and a friend.
A friend and a fiend?
Right, as long as he has his caviar and champagne with no crackers.
And his Weeman.
Right. Anyway, so Tom, would you take the job to be, just for a day, to be Klaus's...
No, nothing.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to do anything with him.
Okay.
No, I'll pass on Klaus.
You have to be social distance from Klaus Kinski, Tom.
At all
Who's your
times.
autograph of the week?
My autograph of the week is the Big E.
Oh, hold on. Wow. Now, I know you got this when you visited the set.
I got it from Don Bruce, and Don Bruce is like you. He's a perfectionist, so I know it's real, and he likes to get them like you do, actually pictures from a film, autographed, not just a picture, a headshot,
Right.
stage
Okay.
shot.
Cool. So we've done all those segments. We're putting the WAI Vault on hold this week because Tom, I guess in some sort of way, will be incorporating some old posters into the next segment.
Yeah, I thought I'd show what we've got on the Eastwood films, the spaghetti westerns.
Okay, wait a
the
minute,
file.
Tom.
Real quick, I'll show
Hold
the.
on, hold on.
Oops.
You gotta get ready for. I know we're doing this live, but I don't care, Tom. You have to take a sip of the bubbly. Hold on. Okay, it's time for. Okay, go ahead, Tom. It's time for Tom's.
You got to pass it.
No, it's Tom's Eastwood posters, Tom.
Press book, American press book for Fistful of Dollars. And had all kinds of information, whether it was true or not. We didn't know, but that's what we had to deal with.
What else,
So
Tom?
that's Fistful. How about this one, Jay?
Oh, nice,
For
Tom.
a few dollars more, had a great cover. Yep. And again, the same thing on the inside. Ad
You
maps.
always
which we-
work. King of the press books, Tom.
we'd cut out for the fanzine. And then remember, once those were released, they would do these double bills.
Right?
Clint Eastwood is back and burning at both ends, and they would show drive-ins, one Fistful, and then for a few dollars more. And then when The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly came out, they'd show them all night. They have a threesome, and it'll last about 6 hours. But there's the American Press book for The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And
Those are
same
sweet.
thing on the inside. So that's the press books. Now on posters, I've got these in order from.
Did you tape it all together, Tom?
No, I just put him on the cover, just to cover that up.
Now we're talking. What do we got, Tom?
I'll have to stand up for this, Jay, and you'll have to position me. Because
Okay, that's fine.
some of these are too big.
This is what I waited for all show, Tom.
How about an original Italian?
That is great, Tom.
Great headshot of him.
You know, I have the Argentinian of that.
It looks the same.
They're almost identical.
Yeah, a lot of that's the thing about poster collecting is some of them look the same, and they just had the German title or the Belgium title or whatever. But the ones that I liked were the fact that they would differ from country to country.
What else you got, Tom?
All right. Then we got.
Tom's a braver man than me by taking his posters out. Oh, the German. Yeah, a little lower. There you go. It's the Western of all Westerns, Tom.
That's it.
I have that too.
You got that one, okay?
Nice. Do you have the one with Claus and him together?
Yeah, I was gonna say this was the re-release. This is the re-release, and this is the one I like the best.
Yeah.
Yep.
We think alike, Tom.
They put Klaus on there, not Lee. All right. Then we move along, and we've got this is a normal German one that you see.
Yeah, that's actually from, if I'm not mistaken, late 60s, early 70s. It could
Yeah,
be
that
a
could be a
re-release.
re-release. Yep.
But it's still rare, yeah.
All right. And
This is
then,
great, Tom.
you have this one. How about a Japanese?
Oh, okay. We're going to have meet at Starbucks or something. That's awesome, Tom.
Is that a good one? Now this one is different because it's from behind. Shows him facing
Lower,
down the
yeah.
guys in Agua Caliente.
That is, yeah, nice.
Is that right? Yep. All right. Then we move along to
Oh, yeah,
Another
the
Spanish?
French, Tom.
the French. Yep.
I got that too.
And you can pick out every member of the gang.
That's
there.
why I got it. It's so
Yep.
vivid.
Yep. And I've got the two huge ones, but I didn't. They're too big to hold up.
This is a special bonus, folks. Tom's Eastwood posters. I'm glad you were here first. This is very rare.
The American.
Whoa, okay, careful, Tom.
It's hitting my head.
Tom, if I were you, I'd fold that right back up. Great.
All right, we're almost done. Italian, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Well, that's the Spanish, Tom.
Oh, the Spanish one. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I can't read it through the back.
Oh, that is Tom, and look at the condition.
It won't be in that condition after this, but
I love it. You just live for the moment, Tom.
finish.
Oh man.
That's from Finland.
Tom, I have to tell you something. You lost me after the third one. You've left me in the dust here.
I got a couple more.
I'm
This
really.
one, you probably have this one.
I got to give you your own show, Tom. Holy crap, Tom! I've got some land in the Philippines I'd like to sell you.
Well, maybe we could put them in the museum. How's that? I'll loan them to
Oh,
you
that
for
would
the
be
museum.
awesome.
And I got two more real quick down here.
All right.
Hang on.
This is such a great surprise.
These are the Belgium,
Yeah, I got that.
and that looks like the French, right?
Right, they do. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then casually here, these are all, I can tell these are all original, Tom.
Yeah, you can see the tape on them. This is the Il Magnificent Stranger.
Yes. If
But
this
you
was
can-
heaven, Tom, I'd never leave. Well, we throw in some, couple blondes and we're good to go.
Yep. And that's it.
Oh, Tom. That was dope, as they say in the hood.
Now
Tom,
I
you
gotta put 'em all
surprised me.
back. Hang on. I gotta throw
Oh,
these back.
no.
I gotta get them out of the way.
Tear, rip. If they've lasted this long with you handling it like that, nothing's going to happen.
Well, I can't sit down. I got them sitting on the seat. All right. That's it.
All right. Thank you so much. You deserve a round of applause by everybody watching.
Yep.
Oh, that was fantastic, Tom. That was fantastic. All right. You know what? What you made me do is you made me have to. All right, folks. This is a taste, unplanned. After Tom's poster show, no one can beat that. Nobody. But I've got our friend. What are you looking at, Jay? This is one of the statues from the Spaghetti Westerns Museum. Hi, folks. Thanks for the homage. So
See, now,
anyway.
that one, you could say that was from The Magnificent Stranger.
Right.
He's got that same hat, yeah. Jay and I think it's from Two Mules for Sister Sarah.
Right.
But I mean, it looks enough. You could fake it by saying it's The Magnificent Stranger.
Wow, what a surprise on Collector's Friday, Tom. You out of breath after that?
Yeah, I got to fold them all back up, get them in the right folder now.
All right. Oh, man. Put them up, Tom. Frame them. No, you're not going to do that now. It's rain season, Tom.
Yeah, that's right.
It's too damp. I got all mine folded and in storage. So anyway, as do the autographs. They're all in a cooled chamber, Tom. So nothing
Good.
happens.
That's
Because remember,
really
I lived in the desert for a while.
Yours are rolled and framed, and mine are just folded and stuck in a manila folder.
We just saw them, Tom. They're lying over the kitchen floor, Tom.
That's it, yeah, right.
So anyway, here is a segment that has a lot of news this week. I'm going to have a smoke, maybe or two. I'm going to have some waffles down the street. And then by the time I'm done, Tom will have done. But this is an important news of the Spaghetti Western Week, or the Spaghetti Western News of the Week. And only Tom can do it like he can. And of course, we have to do that opening, because Tom says we have to do the opening every time we do this. So I present to you, ladies and germs, it's time for Tom Bett's Weekly News.
All right. We finally got some DVD and Blu-ray releases that finally hit this week. There's 3 from the United States and 2 from Germany. On February 9th, Arizona Colt, 1966, directed by Michelle Lupo and starring Juliana Gemma, Roberto Camariel, Fernando Sancho, was released by our buddies at Wild East. It's in English. It's Region 0. Extras include a picture gallery, Juliana Gemma and the Wild East trailers, 20 of those, and an audio commentary by our friend Lee Broughton, who was on the show several months ago. Another USA Blu-ray release is The Hills Run Red 66, directed by Carlo Lozani, starring Thomas Hunter, Henry Silva, Dan Duryea, was released by Kino Lorber Studio Classics. It's in English with English subtitles, Region 0. with a running time of 89 minutes. Extras include an audio commentary by Alex Cox and the theatrical trailer. They also released Man of the East, 1972, directed by Enzo Barboni and starring Terence Hill, Greg Walcott, Harry Carey Jr., Dominic Bartow. It's in Region 0 in English with English subtitles. Running time is 125 minutes, so that would be complete. Extras include an audio commentary by filmmaker Alex Cox and the theatrical trailer. Here's some pictures of the covers. Get out of the way. From Germany, we have Nevada Joe, 1965, directed by Ignacio Aquino, starring George Martin, Audrey Amber, Miguel de la Riva, John McDouglas. It was released on Blu-ray and DVD by Banker Films / Cargo Records. Its Region 2 contains 2 discs, one's the Blu-ray, one's the DVD. It's in German and Spanish with English subtitles. Running time is 95 minutes. This is a limited edition of 1,000 copies. Extras include 2 cover versions released today, February 12th. The second German release is Verflixt Alleluia des Sohn der Trinität, Two Sons of Trinity, 1972, directed by Osvaldo Civarani, starring Franco Franchi and Chicho Ingracia and Lucretia Love. It was released by the same label, Mr. Banker Films / Cargo Records. It's Region 2, 1 disc, Dolby 2.0 German, only, no subtitles. Running time is 82 minutes. There's no extras, and it was also released today. And here's pictures of those 2 releases. Okay, also want to let you know that there's an official Terence Hill shop, and it has now made available Terence Hill coffee, which I just happen to have some. The coffee comes in 2 different sized bags and is available in a variety of blends. You can check the Terence Hill website for further information.
Tom, I need a cup of Terence Hill coffee.
Joe? Yeah.
Right, where he slaps me in the face and hits me with, takes my guns out of my holster and keeps slapping me in the face.
I'm surprised that they just didn't have this in whole beans, since he's a bean fan.
No, that is just awesome. I mean,
okay,
it's Trinity Coffee, Tom.
Trinity Coffee. Passings include Giuseppe Rotuno, Italian Giuseppe. He's an Italian known as Peppino Rotuno. Was one of the greatest masters of world photography and a collaborator of Luchino Visconti and Federico Fellini. He died in Rome on February 7th. He was 97 years old. In his long career, he has worked on masterpieces such as Amarcord, Il Gattopardo, the Leopard, Rocco and His Brothers, Il Casanova, but also a lot in the United States. He was born in Rome on March 19, 1923. He worked with such important American directors as Stanley Kramer, Martin Ritt, John Huston, Mike Nichols, Monty Hellman, Bob Fosse, Robert Altman, Fred Zinnemann, Terry Gilliam, and Sidney Pollack. He was the first non-American cinematographer to be admitted to the American Society of Cinematographers, ASC, in 1966. Rotuno was a cinematographer on 1978's China 9, Liberty 37 with Fabio Testi, Warren Oates, and Jenny Agutter. Also, Jean-Claude Carrier, the prolific French screenwriter and novelist, who was Oscar nominated for The Unbearable Lightness of Being, The Obscure Object of Desire, and The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie, died February 8th. At his home in Paris, he was 89. He often collaborated with Louis Buñuel, Louis Malle, and Milos Forman. Carrier co-wrote the screenplay and several songs for 1965's Viva Maria with Brigitte Bardot and Jean Moreau. And Japanese voice actor Tsuchiro Moriyama died of pneumonia on February 8th. He was 87. Moriyama was born on July 26, 1934 in Nagoya. He was the Japanese voice of Luigi Pistilli in The Great Silence and Telly Savalas in Sonny and Jed. Birthdays this week include Maurizio Merli would have been 81 on the 8th. Fred Williams is 83 on the 9th. Mariana Hill turned 80 on the 9th. Our friends Pili and Mili, the 2 twin girls, are 74. They turned 74 on the 10th. Burt Reynolds would have been 85 on the 11th. Joe Don Baker is 85 today. Oliver Reed would have been 83 tomorrow. So Bo Svensson will be 80 tomorrow. Vic Morrow would have been 92 on the 14th. Brian Kelly would have been 90 on the 14th. And Tina Almont would have been 75 on the 14th. And that's this week's weekly news. Back to you, Jay.
Well, Tom, it's always sad to hear the obits, but that just means they at one point graced us with their presence and their films, and like we all pass on to that next world. You know, I had this idea, Tom, for a movie. I have lots of them, unfortunately. And one of them is, wouldn't it be terrible if there is life after death, but you just get to repeat and live the same?
Oh, Groundhog Day.
Yeah, but with a more darker Night Gallery,
Yeah.
Twilight Zone-y, Outer Limits tone, where it's like, oh no, not again.
Not again,
But
yeah.
not just, it's 6 a.m., not in a lighthearted way, Tom, in a more of
I got to go through this again type
yeah,
of
like,
deal.
oh crap. It's like, and you can't even
yeah.
kill yourself because you'll
Yeah.
just, in a way they
Another-
did that with that Tom Cruise movie. Remember, where every time he was
Yeah,
killed,
right.
he went back to a certain time. But mine would be just more on a darker tone. Like, it's like, not again, the same
Another
life.
day
Or
of
this-
dealing with Kinski. Yeah.
Oh, with starring Kinski. Oh, that'd be, not again. Anyway, Tom, so great news gathering as always. And we just want to thank you
Well,
all.
it always it always strikes me when I see someone mentioned as the greatest cinematographer for whatever. And I mean, I grab those names because they're foreign, and I go to IMDb just to see if they may have made a Western. And I mean, sure enough, they made a spaghetti Western. It's like, holy mackerel, this genre has been denounced for so long, and yet there's so many great people that were involved with it over
It's
the years.
two-faced, Tom. Like sometimes, like in other things in life, right? Right, Tom? What's fair for some people isn't fair for others.
Yep.
Whatever. The what is it? The strong survive. But I don't know, Tom. I'm not even close to that. So anyway, with that ends another great show on Once Upon a Time in Spaghetti Westerns podcast. Today we talked about Clint Eastwood, and we have a great show planned for you next week. And we also have a special, hopefully, interview with someone special coming down the road. Their people have been reached, and there's been an acknowledgement, like a bowing of the head. And that's all I'm going to say. Don't know if that's a good or bad or get lost, but we'll know in upcoming weeks. So anyway, Tom, any shout-outs to anybody?
Not this week.
Okay. So anyway, I'm Jay Jennings, and that is the great Tom Betts. And as always, we always say goodbye, good luck, take care, and what else, Tom?
Well, if you don't see me on Yahoo, I'm on Yahoo jail this week. So
Yahoo?
I'm sorry, Facebook jail. I'll be there for 7 days. So I still
What are you
got
doing
6
in
days
jail,
to
my
serve.
friend?
I don't know.
Get out of jail. I'll send Blondie for you.
I told Jay that the problem is they don't tell you. They just say you've
You
violated
are
one
now
of our
in jail.
conditions on such and such a date. I mean, how many times do you post a day to figure out which one it is?
So Tom you can't even post as WAI, Tom?
Like, no. Well, but yeah, on the blog I can. That's not related to Facebook, but on
I see.
the WAI Facebook page I can't post.
How
I
can
tried
they
to
do that, Tom,
today.
our esteemed host?
Yeah, I can message. Because that's how we connected today, through message. But
Right. So, Tom, hope you get out of Facebook jail soon.
yeah,
We
Yep.
wish you well. So for Tom Betts, I'm Jay Jennings. Tom, what do we always say?
adios, amigos.
Adios, amigos, and adios, compañeros.
Compañeros.